There were many problems with The Last of Us Season 2, and I'm going to mention all of the things I thought were bad about this season, or the changes that were made, and all the critiques that I have. I'm going to mention the things I also thought were good, and the changes that I thought were alright, or even very smart changes to do, but the majority of what I'm going to be talking about is just going to be straight on critiques, because a lot of the changes and decisions that they made weren't good ones and deserve a level of criticism. And I think the majority of the problems came from two large decisions that they decided to make before any actor even stepped foot on the set of the second season. And that is casting, and then the big one is just the writing. I think there were quite a few characters that were cast right, Dina, Tommy, Jesse did a great job. I guess Isaac. Most of the Wolves crew that was alongside Abby. But the two main castings that people have a problem with, and that I also do have a problem with, is obviously Abby and Bella. Abby for the obvious reasons that she literally physically is nothing like Abby of the games, and that takes away her entire physical manifestation of her motivation to kill Joel. Like, that just goes with that. So she's now just a 5'2" lass that's trying to kill him. And it's not just that, it's a reflection of her morals, her motivation, her determination to get revenge, and just that is her character. And I've taken that away simply by casting just another lady. And I mean, to be honest, in the face, she actually does look like Abby from the game. It's the body that just doesn't match, and that is what matters more in this circumstance. And when it comes to Ellie, I don't think she should have been cast to be the older Ellie. She did a great job in the first season. She played a great younger Ellie, got all the mannerisms, all the vibes. Accent did well for the majority of it. But just logically, from a TV show viewpoint, why would you keep the character looking the exact same? Why would you keep the same person when there's a time jump, especially through puberty, where she ends up looking completely different by the end of it? And HBO has shown that they can do this. They did it with Rhaenyra. So why didn't they just do that here? And I'm also going to go a little bit into the acting and the character of Bella here. And I think it's even worse with the fact that Bella, she looks the same as she does in Season 1, and she acts the exact same as she does in Season 1. And I don't even think that is a Bella Ramsey thing. I think that's just a writer's thing. They writ her basically the exact same. Some of the examples are easy. After Joel's death, the memes about I'm going to be a dad comes straight after that fact, when she should be incredibly driven and just wanting to get Abby by that point. But instead, she's just pissing around and acting goofy, which just takes away from her overall revenge. So when she comes around to actually getting revenge on someone, for example, Nina, it just kind of feels sprung, and her revenge comes out of nowhere. Because she comes from all this light-hearted shit, in the middle of a war zone, mind you, to then getting her revenge, and it's like sprung. It's like, how motivated are you to really get revenge if you can piss about? I also think the relationship with Ellie and Dina was done very badly here, and not even in the sense of, they're springing the woke stuff on us, but it in no sense helps that argument when this time round they literally end up springing it on the audience. When you write a script with the line, "You're gay, I'm not," and moments later, or later on in the episode, have them having sex, and then as they wake up, they're now officially a relationship, makes zero sense. We literally spend more time with both of these characters together and less time with their relationship. That is why it is sprung on us. It develops quicker than Leo moving on from a girl that's 25. And it just makes no sense. One kiss 3 weeks ago at a party does not defend the fact that you're now in a relationship after one shag. Let alone, you're both now so close that you're both the parents to this child, when the actual parent, the dad, doesn't even know that Dina's pregnant by this point. And did I leave the part out where they're in an active war zone while this is happening, and Ellie is supposed to be blood-filled and driven by this point. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it, and it shouldn't, because that's the way they've written it, and it makes no sense. And yeah, the overall writing and creative decisions this season were just bad, objectively bad. Like, you have the entire town being attacked, you then have the Tommy bloater scene, Ellie gonna be a dad, that's terrible, and it deserves the memes. And then, just Tommy overall, to be honest, his entire morality, his character, no Rampage. And then there's Joel having his own episode in the semi-final of the season. Now, there is no doubt that by itself, this episode was the best episode, I personally think, of the show. I thought it was great. However, in terms of a TV show, it makes no sense to have an amalgamation of pre and current time skips and putting them all together, especially when that's supposed to be a device over the season, especially when its original purpose was to be a creative device over the entirety. Ooh. Because any just normal viewers of this, and I can attest to this with my brother and dad just watching this, it makes zero sense why that episode's there. It leaves you questioning why it's there. It doesn't make any sense. And you're also banking on the fact that the audience remembers where we are at each point of these time skips, which is just not a smart decision at all, because that's way too much responsibility to just put onto an audience. Especially when you've already accepted that Joel died at the start of the season. It's like you've now just been sprung on all of this, and it just doesn't make sense. I think the worst aspect of this show is them setting up for season 3. And I think that's 2 years away, which that itself is usually a big hurdle to get over for most shows. When you have that long of a time difference in the last season to the next season, it can lose a few people. But it's worse here for everyone that's played the game that knows that this next season, or at least a part of this season, is just going to be driven by Abby and just going to be an Abby season or Abby episodes. Which is obviously going to pose massive questions for just normal audience viewers, like, who the fuck is Abby? Why is there Abby episodes? Why are we looking at Abby? Why is she now the main character? An entirely new season. Entirely new. So basically, it's literally them making a new show with Abby. You're going to confuse the shit out of everyone. A character they've only seen once and haven't expanded upon and has barely even been introduced to because we were too busy watching I'm Gonna Be a Dad. And I'll use an example. It's very similar, or it's in a similar sort of realm, to The Walking Dead and Fear the Walking Dead. They are both in the exact same universe, happening at the exact same time, just at different points, different locations. But they are completely different shows. It would be the exact same, like, you're nearing the end of Fear the Walking Dead, and then the next season of Fear the Walking Dead is the first season of The Walking Dead. It makes no sense whatsoever. You'd be so confused. And it's hard to grip an audience when they don't really know any of the characters you're now thrusting onto them, even if it's in the same universe. Now, I don't want to criticise too much, even though that's exactly what I'm doing, but there was good stuff in here. I just think the writers and some of the creative decisions, they just backed themselves into a corner with the changes that they made initially, and they just had to try fight and dig their way out, but they just did it in the worst way. They used nichey and just cringy shit that just really did not need to happen. And I think one of the main catalysts for basically all the bad decisions in this season started when it was not Tommy running after Abby and then Ellie going after Tommy. From that point, like, all their reasonings and stuff kind of get jumbled, which is why I'm Gonna Be a Dad and all those cringy memes and shit is so bad, because now you're solely showing the audience that it is Ellie solely going after Abby. She's gone alone into an active war zone with enemies all around her for this one person, because she's not going after Tommy anymore. That isn't an excuse to happen. She's there with one single objective: get Abby, get revenge. However, there's so much time there where she's just not doing that. She's I'm going to be a dadding and just memeing and cringing and shit. She could kind of do that if she's going after Tommy, but if she's there and was willing to go alone to Seattle to find Abby, she should be thunder breathing just Zenitsu straight forward towards that shit, instead of all this just other shit that shouldn't happen. She went there alone, one directive. However, there's so much time where she just doesn't just full steam ahead it. I think those were the majority of the criticisms I personally felt towards the show. So I'm going to end it on these two things. My overall rating for this second season, and then a response to the hate that Bella Ramsey has gotten. I rate this season a 5.5 out of 10. Now this is compared to the first season, which I think I rate about an 8.5, maybe even a 9 out of 10. And the reasonings are all my critiques and just general feelings towards watching the show and what the show is. Now the show has received a lot of hate, and a lot of it has been quite valid hate, but there's also been a lot of delusional love as well. You are allowed to hate on aspects of the show and still like the entirety of the product. You're allowed to criticize things that happen and not just say, oh, I love it all, it's so good, and just be able to defend it. No, you're allowed to say things which are objectively bad, like they're factually basically bad about the show. You are allowed to also criticize along with maybe even the haters. You can be rallying with them and still actually like the overall product. It doesn't mean you can hate on aspects and not hate on the entire thing, just summarizing it. Because objectively, there were things in the show, plain and simple, that were bad. And there have been very valid arguments from haters and just from people that genuinely have critiques about the show, which are completely valid, and most of them are true. However, there is that minority that is hating on Bella for how she looks and her acting in this season. Now, I will agree that from a screen acting technique standpoint, she, in some scenarios, does find it difficult to show certain amounts of nuance with her face. But I do not attribute that to how she looks. I think that's far more of the fact that she has autism. And in certain scenarios, most of them which I have pointed out before are conversational or social connections, she finds it quite hard to be able to play that off sometimes. And you can see that pretty well. I personally feel like she struggles connecting to people, and this kind of carries over into Ellie. But apart from those little things, those are very particular things. Apart from that, her acting's been spot on in the majority of the scenarios that she's been put in. Like that one episode with Pedro, she did fucking phenomenal. She has a great dramatic range and is very versatile as an actor. I'll also say that the people that hate directly on Bella are the people that say Pedro cannot act, and they didn't think Pedro's acting in episode 6 was that good. So that just shows you how many brain cells they have. It's fine to have an opinion on a casting. It's fine to have an opinion on the way a character looks and like just the makeup department, all the hair and stuff. Like even in this season, I thought Ellie's hair was just way too long and it's way too straight in certain circumstances. And for the most part, she's way too clean for the entire season because she's in a goddamn apocalypse. But just hating on an already casted person's just genetics is crazy work, because everyone has something that can be hated on due to their genetics, except for like maybe sebum. So yeah, I think that was a pretty good summary of everything I thought about this season. I think I got all the points that I wanted to hit. There might be a few more things I've either just forgotten or erased from my mind, but apart from that, yeah, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you did like this, and please just let me know your thoughts on this season and any of the things you liked, didn't like, casting, all of it. So yeah, thank you for watching and...
Hello, I am the writers of The Last of Us. Even though I don't know how to do that, I really like these characters. However, I don't know what the fuck they do. I just want your money.